sympathy is like, hey, I'm sorry you fell in that hole, right? Empathy is you climb down in the hole with them and you get out together, right? That's empathy. And so that's what you do, right? If you're going to empathize with people, you have to get down where they are and help them get out. And so it wasn't me speaking from a 30,000 foot view towards these players or towards these coaches. It's like, I'm in this with them.
One of the biggest problems leaders get into, except for the high leader, we're talking CEOs, they try to get too much into the weeds and they can't see what's really going on. And as you described that to me, that's a great example of a CEO understanding my job right now leading this team is to say, am I here to support and not get caught up in everything that's going on? Because then I can't see how I can really guide them.
The guys who are up in the booth, right? They're not always up in the booth. Yeah, halftime they're in the locker room. Pre-game they're in the locker room. Every day they're working with the team. So it's not just they're always up there. They have to come down. And you're not always on the sidelines either. So there has to be that ebb and flow in leadership and in college football.
Before we jump into this episode, I'd love to invite you to be a part of the community where you can listen to more content to help you be a smarter, stronger, and better equipped, successful leader. All you have to do is hit that subscribe button. I would love and appreciate your support. It's amazing to me to watch the community grow and read all of your comments each and every week. I can't wait to go on the journey with you. Thank you so much, and it means the world to me. Welcome to the Impact Driven Leader Podcast. This is your host, Tyler Dickerhoff. Today, I'm joined by Robbie Emery. Robbie serves as the Director of Character Development for the University of Michigan football team, and where he focuses on instilling values of integrity and teamwork. Yes, they have it there in players and staff. In the last few years, Robbie also served as a special advisor to Michigan football team and an executive assistant to head coach Jim Harbaugh. Robbie, I texted you yesterday. In preparing for this podcast, I was looking forward so much to this conversation, but it was dastardly painful. And there might be people in the audience that don't understand why it was hard for me to read that, playing into it, and as well painful. I want to hear your perspective as we go into this. How do you view my home state team of Ohio State?
The team down south, because I know it was hard for you to say that Michigan.
Yeah. That team up north.
That's how we've heard north. I had the privilege of speaking with Coach Urban Meyer on the sidelines a few times and talked about just Michigan football. And this is when he's no longer the coach. And I think I'm one of the few people that got him to say the M word. He usually calls us the Wolverines, but he asked me how long I'd been in Michigan. So okay. I'll take that as a win on our side. That's all right.
That's a win.
No, I think
Can you say that in your office? Are you like afraid of looking around and there's going to be a bug and all of a sudden you like exit through the floor?
It is. There's no green or red in our building. Absolutely zero green or red. And if someone comes in to work in our building and they're wearing green or red, that's got to go. It doesn't matter if it's Christmas or what. So there's no green or red.
Put back on my Ohio State hat for a minute here. Unfortunately, I got too hot in my studio to keep it on, but my Buckeye pride. You've been there in Ann Arbor this is your 9th season starting. And I just want to read off some scores. The first one, 42-13. Do you remember that one? That was the first year the Buckeyes won. The next year was a tight one. It was 30-27, double overtime. Buckeyes won. Then it was
far, but my point of view, this far.
Then it was 31-20. The Buckeyes won. 62-39. That was a rough one. And that was when you guys were ranked number 4 and we were number 10. Kind of put it on you. And then 56-27. And then, we've had the last couple of years. I will acknowledge 42-27, 45-23, and 30-24. But according to my count, that's 5-3 my Buckeyes are against your Michigan-led Wolverines.
Hey, those are great numbers and stats of previous games. And I don't know, I think the number's like 1,300, 1,400, close to the last time Ohio State has beaten Michigan since 2019, I think it was. So we can live in the past or we can move on to the future.
Yeah.
The present.
One of the things that, again, for people to understand, there's not only a rivalry between the teams, but very political in the state. And where a lot of this started is there's a 10-mile stretch in between the two states that was heavily fought over at the end of the 19th, 20th century. So it isn't just about these teams. It is state, it is political, even beyond that. I imagine you're being a
we have those maps hung up in our building.
yes. So this is where I want to transition. You and I, we got to meet each other last week as we're recording this at an event with John Maxwell. We were both attending, and we sat in a lunch with Malcolm Gladwell. And in that lunch with Malcolm, I imagine you remember there was a question from the audience. It's like, how are we dealing with this political strife? How do we deal with that? And Malcolm made the comment is we can go through and we can say what similarities, what things are important to you. And in between two people, polar opposites, you and I, polar opposites. And there could be 20 things. And 17 of those are probably the same, but yet we spend all of our time focusing on the 3. As we're having this conversation, what does that make you think about?
I'll go back to last year when we are playing the game, right? And Zach Zenner goes down and he's hurt. And, at the end of the day, that's someone's son on the field, whether it's your son or, it's someone's son. And they're football players and it's a game, right? And we're walking off and I spend time with the Zenter family are going off and Ryan Day, Coach Day grabs, the Zenter family and just says, hey, I want you to know I'm praying for Zach. He's a good man, good player. I'm praying for him. Because at the end of the day, rivalry or not, all the stuff we like to get in the fun with and everything. And it's great. But that's we got to find all right, come on, guys, let's really see this kid. We didn't know how hurt he was. It ended up being the best type of break he could have for his career. But still, was still something difficult for both teams to have to endure. And I think at the end of the day, that's where you look at whether it's politics or, playing in the big game. Sometimes you have to realize, all right, guys, let's calm down and we can still be friends and still have a lot of good fun, no matter whose side wins.
It takes real leadership to be able to do that. To be able to put aside those differences. And that's something our world is in your world, my world, as far as Michigan, Ohio State, you got to, hey, pump the brakes, guys. It's just a game. We talked about I shared with you that it was shared with me that last year after Ohio State lost, the coach had death threats. Players had death threats. I think you've gone through that. You've shared that at times. Players and just the adversity they face playing at the highest level in college football athletics and the outside pressures that sometimes people don't have that ability to say, hey, it's somebody's kid.
Yeah. I think that, this is a leadership podcast and, those watching, I'm assuming are leaders of, a small group, big group, organizations, coaches on different teams. And one thing we can understand is man, we kind of throw this all together, right? We're all leading, doing something and trying to make people better versions of themselves. And really that's what a coach is doing. But we getting all these compliments and all this chatter from, armchair quarterbacks who've never played football in their life, let alone D1 ball, or have 100,000 followers on any level of social media. And you're going to comment to, a player who drops a ball in the end zone because their team loses or your team loses. Well, you're probably just a Walmart Wolverine anyways.
That's a good one. I haven't heard that. I'm going to have to use that. That's good. I'll have to remember that come November 30th. They're just a bunch of Walmart Wolverines. Robbie,
that's in reference. This is a reference to people who didn't go to school here. Didn't go to school. Yeah.
How did you end up in Ann Arbor? How did that journey start for you? Because I think it really tells, obviously I know, but it tells a lot about the evolution over 9 years.
Yeah, no, it's a great question. We grew up here, my wife and I, and then 2009 we moved to Houston to start a church. And not to Houston, start to be a part of a church, and then moved back to Michigan in 2016 to start a church. And in that move, we were informed by a friend of mine that the current, now transferring to Michigan, Houston Cougars quarterback was moving to Michigan to be on the team there. And he didn't have any relationship, any connection, and I didn't know him either. Well, that pastor built a bridge between me and this quarterback, and he and I just started being friends. He needed a big brother, a mentor, friendship, pastor in his life, and that's all I was, really doing Bible studies and mentorship, and that kind of took on a different life as the days and weeks went on, where it was more than just one player, it was multiple players, and not even just players, it was interns, anyone that would want to be a part of the Bible study. It was open, and they all came. And from that, it kind of grew to, hey, we'd love for you to meet Coach Harbaugh. I met him in August of 2016 at our barbecue at the Big House. And from that day on, he was like, hey, I would love for you to come speak at a chapel service. I did that. And, it's history from there. I just kind of made myself available to the team, to the program, to him. And, there was a need there, and just kind of filled it. And really, it's just encouragement. People ask, what do you do? I was like, I'm just a pastor. That's all. Just encouraging these players and coaches. And, in a world sometimes that those things are encouragements few and far between.
That piece of, leadership, being the encourager, being someone to put your arms around someone and walk with them. To me, that's the definition I use for empathy that can't be emphasized as a necessity in leadership. How have you seen that, especially last year, the amount of adversity that you guys went through in Ann Arbor? How much did that really show up as a catalyst of leadership for you, the coaches, the rest of the team?
The strength in leadership is consistency, right? And so because we've been able to build something over the past few years together, we have seen some benefits to that. Well, the benefit is not necessarily wins, but it's also like when you're going to face adversity, when you're going to face tough times, is you have that strength because you've been doing this together. You're in the trenches together, right? Sympathy is like, hey, I'm sorry you fell in that hole, right? Empathy is you climb down in the hole with them and you get out together, right? That's empathy. And so that's all you do, right? If you're going to empathize with people, you have to get down where they are and help them get out. And so it wasn't me speaking from a 30,000 foot view towards these players or towards these coaches. It's like, I'm in this with them, right? I love baseball. Of course, worked for the football team, but I love baseball. And one of the reasons why I love baseball is you're going to turn on, you're going to watch the Dodgers play, and the manager is dressed like a player. He's got a number. He dresses like him, right? It literally says, I'm in the trenches with you. I'm a part of this team. I'm going to put on this uniform. And on Saturdays, when I'm on the sidelines, I tell them I want to look like either a coach or an intern. I want to blend in. I do not want to look like a business guy on the sidelines. I do not want to look like a pastor on the sidelines. I want to look like a person on this team. And that's the mindset I have. Now, during the week, today I had chapel today. And I won't wear any Michigan clothes when I do chapel because I try to create this separation. But I also want them to know that I'm going to get down there with them on Saturdays, and I'm going to grind it out until hopefully we get that victory.
Dude, I love that perspective. Not only describing empathy, but being willing to get with them and being so visible about that. You and I again we heard this last week, that if you can't lead from afar. You have to be in it because you can't see what's really going on. I'd love just thinking about that. Is there a time where you're like, oh, you got into it and it was, like a guy, something came over to you and said, hey, like what's going through my head right now? Has that happened to you during the game, during the week, where you're like, all right, me being a part and understanding I'm a part of this, created that opportunity to be empathetic and guide and lead more than maybe if you weren't?
Yeah, it's hard not to remove if you're in the team, if you're a part of it, if you're close enough to it, it's hard to remove yourself from the exact same motion that the players are playing. Now, you're not in there, you're not playing the down on the ball, but you're in it, right? You're feeling the same emotion, you're having the same anxiety. They're feeling the fear of like, hey, we're down by 2 and we need to make this field goal to win the game, right? you're praying. I mean, I've prayed probably more on the sidelines of the football field than I have in most places, because the amount of energy that these guys have put into it. You know what they've done throughout the week to get them to where they are, because you see it, you're a part of it. And so as a leader, whether it's business, coaching, anything, as much as you can be a part of what your team is doing is going to be great, because when they win, it's going to feel even better for you. And so, yeah, a player will come off the field and maybe they're not hurt, but maybe there's something happened, not clicking. And we'll have a moment on the sidelines. Either I'm giving them a little bit of juice, right? Pumping them up, make them feel like they could run through a wall. Or they'll say, hey, Pastor, I need you to pray for me. In fact, I've had media come up to me and say, hey, I saw this player come up and talk to you in the middle of the game. What was going on? And I said, well, I'm team chaplain. I was just praying for them, because I have to make sure there's kind of guidelines. I can't get. I'm not a coach, so I can't give them any coaching advice or anything.
Totally.
So I have to make sure it's copacetic, but also, like,
you don't want a Stallions moment. I mean,
you don't want to do something that you're not supposed to be doing, right? Exactly.
I had to. Come on. For those of you who don't know, just look it up. It's okay.
Yeah. Google it.
Yeah,
Google it.
You'll see lots of things. Here's what I take from that: is sometimes that is a leader's most imperative role. If you think about that, in my viewpoint, yes, Coach Harbaugh, Coach Brown, the other coaches, they have significant roles on game day. But, is so much in leadership is, to me, one of the biggest problems leaders get into, except for high leaders, we're talking CEOs, they try to get too much into the weeds and they can't see what's really going on. And as you described that to me, that's a great example of a CEO and understanding my job right now leading this team is to say, am I here to support and not get caught up in everything that's going on, because then I can't see how I can really guide them.
Right. Yeah, no, that's why there's, 10 position coaches, and, the guy on one side of the ball is not trying to tell the guy on the other side of the ball what to do. You have to stay in your lane, but also, be observant, right? If there's a player or a teammate or a coworker or an employee that has a problem, they can come to any one of us, not just the person that they are being coached by, and allow that to do it. And so there's areas where, yes, there's this 30,000 foot view and I can see everything. And you go to football, we got guys up in the booth. They do have that 30,000 foot view, if you will, to be able to see the entire field, to be able to see the offense and defense happening simultaneously. And when you're on the sidelines, I tell people all the time, it's the worst way to watch a football game.
Oh, yeah.
I go home and rewatch it because I miss half the game, if you will. I miss more than half the game. And sometimes think about leadership, right? Sometimes if we're too close, we're missing a lot of things. Sometimes if we're too far away, we can't really impact what's happening individually. And so there has to be a balance, and we have to work in that balance as well. And so what does that mean? Well, that means the guys who are up in the booth, right? They're not always up in the booth. Yeah, halftime they're in the locker room. Pre-game they're in the locker room. Every day they're working with the team. So it's not just they're always up there. They have to come down. And you're not always on the sidelines either. So there has to be that ebb and flow in leadership and in college football.
Yeah, I'm just wondering, you mentioned that, again, being on the sidelines, you miss the game, or, having coached, you can a lot of times miss just what's going on in different elements. You have to, like any other business, you have to, over time, allow it to slow down and find out what's important and have those people help you. But there's something I'm just intrigued by, and you mentioned that you miss out on the game and you have to go home and watch it. How much do you do that in order to better understand what players are maybe going through during the week, and see something during a game and say, oh, I need to understand and appreciate what happened to them during the game so I can better lead them in your position during the week?
No, it's great. And the second part of that is, yes, I'll go back and watch it for the players, but even Coach Harbaugh had said it last year. He's never done this, but the first 3 games, he would literally watch the game from home, and he would watch as Gus Johnson or whoever was calling the game, Kirk Herbstreit, began to talk about the game. And he said, you guys are exactly right. You know what you're talking about in regards to what's happening in the moment. And it even brought insight to him as a head football coach to have those moments. He would rather be on the sideline, but he watched from there. And so, yeah, we'll go back and watch it, hear what they have to say. And I learned something from football, and I think a lot of people should do it. I used to never watch myself communicate. I used to never watch myself do a presentation. I would never go back and watch because it was cringe, if you will. But now I do it all the time because if Tom Brady's watching film after a Sunday on Monday and he's the greatest of all time, then why wouldn't we as leaders go back and refine our craft?
I think you mentioned it, it's cringe because we're afraid to acknowledge or deal with maybe a failure, a shortcoming, I don't want to relive that painful moment if I understood it was painful in it instead of
Can you
realizing,
imagine
we
though
can learn.
here in football?
Oh,
You
yeah.
have to do it with all your peers.
Yeah.
Can you imagine sitting in a room, watching yourself speak, knowing you messed up, and you have to do it in front of John Maxwell?
Yeah.
You have to do it in front of Malcolm Gladwell?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. But think of how much better we all would be if we actually had that opportunity to sit in front of people who have done it way better than us. Coach Harbaugh spent 15 years in the league as a player, went to the Super Bowl, now has won a national championship. To be able to have him critique you, it's cringe, but you'll be better for it.
Well, and I think that is when you put yourself in those places, whether it is by peer groups, right? Who's in your inner circle that can speak to you? Say, hey, Robbie, I don't know if you noticed this. This is what I noticed. I'm saying this because I want to help you get better, right? You have those people in your life. Until you get to that place, you can't get better, right? Your blind spots will never be exposed. And it's finding, how do you find that? Like, who's in your world to bring that to you?
I have three people, and you can have more than this. I just made sure I defined these three people. One is I have a senior pastor in my life. I used to work for him. I don't now, just not for anything negative, but just we moved on, transitioned. He's still in my world. I still run big decisions by him. In fact, he was one of the first people I called when Coach Harbaugh asked me to be his assistant. And he says, you have to do this. The second is a friend who's a pastor. He's younger than I am, but he's one of my closest friends. And we cut up and we do everything you shouldn't do as pastors together. And we just, we do all that stuff. And so he's a friend that I have. And then I have another pastor who's actually family. So those three people speaking from different perspectives in my life and asking them for help and where can you see that I can be better. And every major decision that I've ever made in my life, I've not made without running it by those types of categories: a friend, a family member, and someone. I don't know. You got to have people who know you and people who know you. That's what I like to say.
No, I get it. And if those of you not watching on video, Robbie shook his head at that last one. It's saying, they're saying no to you. And I appreciate that. And too often, I think we find that we don't have people that say no to us, right? Like, how hard is it to say no to Coach Harbaugh?
I don't know so I would find a better way to say no.
This got you a little nervous, Robbie. Like,
no,
how do I do that? I mean, this is good stuff right here.
So the question would be, well, it'd be a follow-up question: is that the best way to do this? It would be a question based on, hey, let's do this. Is that the best way to do this? What if we did it this way? Or always try to come up with an alternative, or quickly forget his request and not follow through, knowing that it wasn't best form of practices for that moment. And then if he does come back to me in a few days, and if we feel like it was what we should do, then we'll see it happen. But sometimes our slow cadence is very helpful for those that we're in leadership under. Sometimes taking little slow steps, because understanding leadership, I'm very similar to Coach Harbaugh, but I'm a little younger, similar to where I want to see things happen. And so you kind of just spitting off ideas and plans and just, this, and understanding that that's, just rapid fire. And that's just what that is. It's not a request. It's not necessarily, hey, let's get this done. It's rapid fire. I had to learn that, and knowing that, hey, he does want this done, but he's going to narrow that down in a few days to really see something happen. So it's never really a no. It's just, okay, let's wait and see if he really drills down to what we want to do.
I want to transition a little bit. in the fact that you get a perspective that, maybe many listening in obviously don't get, because you're at that, next step between a amateur athlete who's is now getting paid, but to the true professional realm of athletics. And, so many of us that are parents and having kids that are involved in sports like yourself, looking at that, the whole system of youth sports. And I'm really intrigued and wonder, as you're part of the recruiting process, kids are coming to Michigan, they're looking at extending their playing career there. And you're talking to them, or they come to the university. When you think about their previous career and then coming there, what type of, what type of, things are you able to offer them that really help them either ingrain into being at Michigan, or that you find as struggles they're having coming from their days of playing as youth?
One of the things that we've tried to do and establish the culture that we have is, whether this 18-year-old, 17-year-old is a 4-star, 5-star recruit, 3-star, is to let them know that when you come here, there's no stars. And that's not to remove any of your accomplishments or take anything that you've already done to this, to this far for granted. No, we just, when you come here, you make this choice, there's no stars. Well, that says a lot to the 3-star, knowing that he's coming here with 5 stars. And if the 5 stars mentality's right, he'll be ready to come here and compete, knowing that I don't have this position already set in stone, that I got to come here and compete for my number. I've got to compete for my position. And that's what you want as a coach. You want people competing. You want them striving, putting in the work away from the field, because everyone's going to do the same thing when they're in this building. And one of the things is you have to appeal to the parents too, right? The parents are, at this point, they're driving the decision for their players now. And it could be a financial one. When it comes to me, it could be a faith-based one. And what we're trying to do is just remind them of some of the reasons why they would choose Michigan. And I have had recruits come through, and I can name several families that have been through here that have said that a lot of programs, Division I programs, that what I get to do with the program is just to check the box, where here it's actually a part of who we are. And it's taken a while to get there. It's not an overnight a part of who we are, but it is. This is not, I'm Pastor Robbie in this building, and it's not hidden. It's
not somebody that comes once a week for Bible study. It's not somebody that comes pre-game to pray with the team. It's like, obviously you're there in the building with your role as director of character development. You're involved every day. Every day. And so that's key. And so you think about how cyclical our programs are, right? New coaches, new staff, new players, transfer portal, all this stuff. Well, this is my 9th season. I'm not going anywhere. And to parents to understand that, even if the head coach goes, even if the position coach goes, even if his teammates go, Robbie's still going to be here. And they appreciate that consistency. And so a kid coming in, whether he's had it the best life and he's come from a great family, or man, he's just barely making it. And some of the greatest kids, man, and I'll just say this, let me take the colors off, take the states off. I think CJ Stroud is one of the best person in the world. He is an amazing guy. I had the privilege of trying to recruit him, and was brought in, got to meet CJ, got to talk to him, got to talk to his mom, got to talk to his brother, got to spend time with him. And his decision was, a lot of his decision was based on faith. It was based on, wasn't a lot of the other stuff. It was faith. And he didn't make the decision to go Ohio State. And I understand that. Ohio State it's a throwing organization. Ours is more of a running organization. And it's good. A lot of great quarterbacks come out of Ohio State, rightfully so. But to know CJ's story, that, CJ was living in a storage unit as a kid. His mom ran a storage unit, and they lived in the storage unit. This guy who's going to break tons of records in the NFL, who is a standout at Ohio State, Heisman runner-up, just an amazing person, didn't allow his current environment to keep him from all his dreams. And even still today,
wanting to make sure he's a better Christian, wanting to make sure his faith is elevated, and that he's using the platform that he has now to be able to share the gospel. It's amazing. And so to be able to tell parents and help them navigate that, and to be able to say, hey, this is a part of it, and use these kids. So what I do, this is my elevator speech to a mom. This is what I give them. I'm like, all right, she'll have a diamond ring on, most likely. And I was like, you got that diamond ring. I'm going to tell you, that diamond that you have on your finger, there's 4 ways that it creates value. It used to be just 3, but 4 ways that the value of the diamond's established. Number 1 is how it's created. It can either be created in a lab or created through time naturally. I said, that's number 1. And I said, I think your son is a diamond. I think he's an incredible gem. Now, the way he's created, I can't help that. God put those gifts in him, and the way you raised them, right. I'm going to help on the next 3. The next 3 are the color, the cut, and the clarity. The color is how people see your son. I'm going to work on his character. I'm going to help develop that, because the way people see him is going to determine his value in this world and in this program. And so I want to work on that. Now the cut, man, what do we need to remove? What are some things in his life that he's going to have coming from where he was raised, what he's done, the whole show me your friends, I'll show you the future. What do we need to remove? How is he going to navigate social media through the good times and the bad times? So we're going to work on that. That's the cut, right? And the clarity, of course, is that we got to get a clear vision of who he wants to be, where he wants to go, and what he wants to do. Because his plan A is to go to the NFL. Plan A is to go make millions of dollars in the program called Not for Long, right? Not for long. But his plan B is to get a good education at the University of Michigan, to build a network in one of the strongest fan bases and alumni in the country. Michigan has more billionaire alumni than any other university in the world. I said, that's his plan B. And I said, I want you to know that your son's plan B is everyone else in the world's plan A. That's their plan A. So get a good education, build a network of people that can help their career, drive their career, make them a better individual, and do something great with their life. That's your son's plan B. That's everyone else's plan A. So get him here. Let him be a part of our program. Let's see what we can do together.
One of the things that we mentioned, and we talked the other day about CJ, and I mentioned my friend Roy, who spent a lot of time with him at Ohio State. And as you recount that, I can't wait to reach out to Roy right after this and just say, hey, whether you realize or not, the impact that everyone sees that you've made. And I think one of the things that we talked about is, goes back to what you mentioned earlier. Get rid of the colors, get rid of the teams, is the real desire. What you just mentioned there was being transformational, helping people transform and grow. One thing that I realize, and you recount that's at Michigan, right? But I believe every organization, every company, every leader has the ability to do what you just shared, to focus on the color, the cut, and the clarity of everyone, and not think, oh, that's not for me to do. How do you see that falling short in our world?
I would say this, like the attention to detail, right? I think the attention to it, because as great as that diamond is, for people to actually see it, it has to be set in something. It has to be set in something. A loose diamond is, right? Any loose diamonds anywhere you're afraid of. You want them locked in a safe. You want them tucked away. You rarely see a loose diamond. And that's why they have to be set in something. And so I think for everyone to really see the value, and everyone, man, what's your foundation in? What are you set in? What are people seeing you stand on? Is it standing on something that's gonna, it's standing on your social media platform, or is it standing on your faith? Is it standing on one of the most popular classes at University of Harvard right now is the happiness class. One of the most popular classes right now.
It's Harvard.
Right. You're doing everything you can to get into Harvard, and then you're going to go take a happiness class.
Yes, exactly.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So people are looking for a foundation. Is what that tells me. They're looking for something to and the professor of the class is a Christian. And he is seeing such an incredible development of it. And he says there's 4 things. The first thing he says, it's family, it's faith, not anywhere. He calls it my 401k. It's family, it's faith, It's how people perceive you, and it's your friendships. And so he said, you should be working on those. Yeah. He said that transcendent stuff is what most people should be working on.
You know, the interesting part, as you mentioned, that is just this idea of we think it's for someone else to do, right? That transcendent stuff is for someone else to do once they come here. It's kind of like if you guys took the opinion like, hey, we will utilize whatever talent comes here and we'll just maximize the talent that comes here, instead of saying, no, I'm going to take the opportunity to adjust, to help bring out the best, bringing out the best of that color, again, focusing on the diamond as you shared, and putting it in the right setting. Because you can take a diamond, you can put in a bad setting and it doesn't look very nice. And you can put a whatever diamond, a 3-star diamond, and put it in the right setting and it looks absolutely stunning and is world class.
Yeah.
How much do you see that's lacking in so many organizations?
I think the what's lacking is it the boldness to be able to establish a clear setting, right? To establish something that man, this is who we are. This is what we're going to be. This is the culture we're going to have, and there's everything else is non-negotiable. I think that's what we've said we're going to be as a program, right? This is what we're going to do, and you have to have that mindset. If we go back to football, right? I do believe the reason why we won the Penn State game is because we ran it 32 times, right? And we had to say, hey, we're going to commit to this play scheme, and we're going to run it 32 times. Well, I think a lot of people, they commit to something, they're not really committed. They're going to commit until it gets tough. They're going to commit until, Blake gets a bloody nose and then we're going to pull him out. No, they committed even after a messed up nose, even after everything, the adversity they were facing on the field, decided to go for it. And I would say for any organization, whether it's a pastor or you're running a business, man, find your identity, commit to it, and say, hey, this is who we're going to be. And be okay with that, whatever that is.
I want to go through, some of the great stories that you've had, the great opportunity to make an impact in people's lives. You've made an impact through lives of people on the team, but then where they go on to next, whether it's their profession in football or else. Like, share a story with us, someone that you mentioned CJ. I'd love to know someone that, came there. And, maybe they weren't sure. And then all of a sudden you realize whether they played in the league or not. And you realize, wow, that's why I'm here.
Yeah. Yeah. I think the relationship that I really, someone asked, it's probably the longest standing relationship that I've had. And that was with Mikey Sanderstill. And Mikey Sanderstill, now he plays for the Washington Commanders, and he's yet to see what he's going to do for that team, right? But I've been able to see what he's done for our team, and what I've been able to help Mikey with, and through the years develop him and help him through some tough times, some scares, if you will, playing offense and then working back over to defense and being a standout corner for us, and just playing that role, but also being a leader in the locker room. There's, what most people don't hear is Mikey in the locker room, right? Mikey telling the guys what to do, encouraging them, setting the standard. And some people will think, and it's JJ, and JJ is a leader, and Blake is a leader. But man, to see what Mikey was able to do, and Mikey was here for over 5 years, and to hear Mikey's story on the outside. And I was here one Saturday, I think it was, or Sunday, and there's recruits coming through, and Mikey's mom is in the building, and she's coming around, and she was always here. I love it. Our program was any parent could be in the building anytime they wanted to. They could come to practice. Doors were open to any mom and dad that was around, and she was here, and I was just talking with her, and I'd spent a lot of conversations with her, and she put my arm around me when a recruit came over, and I introduced her to the recruits and everything, and she said, this is Mikey's dad. And Mikey has a great dad in his world. But she was saying, this is Mikey's spiritual father. This is Mikey's father. And that was one of the greatest compliments I could get from a mom, is that I've been able to walk Mikey through this. And he texted me a couple weekends ago. I think it was the first preseason game. And he says, hey, me and my teammate, we missed chapel. We were getting treatment. Can you do a devotion with us? I said, absolutely. And so that to me is one of the great success stories, because Mikey walked through this here and he still desires for it in the NFL. When he's reached his goals, when he's reached where he wanted to be, the rest is up to him, right? And how far he'll go, how long he'll stay. But he didn't want to let go of what he grabbed hold of while he was still here, or even just developed while he was here.
One of the thoughts that I've had in over the years, whether it's through coaching, leading business, is being an incubator, not incinerator. And what I heard right there is that you incubated and you helped incubate, and you do that for people. As I share those words and you think about that, what does that mean to you? How would that play out in your program to, further on being an incubator, or what incinerator looks like? Why don't we want to be that incinerator?
I don't know if it was you. I think it was you. I feel like it was you, Tyler, that mentioned this at the Maxwell event. But I do it with the guys where hey, like, I'm going to teach you, I'm going to be the pastor in your life, but man, I'm not always going to be here. So I don't want to just be the only voice, or I don't want to just be, the oracle, if you will. I want to help you be able to find God in your own way. And so, yeah, it's as easy as the Bible app and I'll have football players reading before I do in the morning, because they're getting up at 4:30, and there's this accountability back and forth where they're keeping me accountable and I'm keeping them accountable. And so as leaders, man, what can we do? And that's what I do. I feel like I've been a youth pastor for 25 years. I feel like I'm just still in youth ministry, working with these guys and helping develop them. And if it's the Bible app, or if it's just in some way reinforcing, a lot of them come from incredible families. How can I reinforce what mom and dad have already done? And so I spend time with the parents too, because again, we want to insulate them, not isolate them, right? They're going to go out into the world. So what can I put in them that is going to withstand the toughness of the real world?
Man, I think as a parent of 3, as you are as well, and your daughters are just starting college, mine has another year. Very much, I have the opinion, man, I need to insulate them, not isolate them, because they're going to face it. They're going to face it every day in their life. They don't have to be away at college to face it. It can be high school, it can be wherever. And I think that's as a parent, something that is so important. And then also, part of what you share, and I think about mentors in my life that have been able to be there to help further that insulation, rather than, hey, the only way to survive is to isolate.
Yeah. And another part of this, I know this is not in relation to this question, but I just want to say this before I get it. But like, I just give these kids, these guys, they're asking, what do you talk about? What do you share with them? I said, I just give them Jesus, right? They're going to hear from some of the best motivational speakers in the world, right? Or they're going to hear some of the elite athletes that have done everything that they want to accomplish. I've done none of that. I'm not that guy. I've not written that book. I've not accomplished that thing. But one thing I do know is I do know Jesus. And so that's what I give them. And so we had chapel today, and I just preached a sermon, just gave them Jesus. And man, it was awesome. And I'll just say this, I gave them Jesus, and the head football coach decided to say something that I had said in an optional chapel at the all-team practice at the end. He used something that was shared. And I'm not saying that because of it, but what I'm saying is that there's layers to it, and just flows through our program. It just flows and flows. And I'm thankful for that. I'm thankful for a head football coach that's reading through the Bible this year. It's amazing. Yeah.
One thing that we've seen so much, obviously, the guys that have come through there, you mentioned CJ. CJ took some heat, and actually there's a lot of people came to his side, but sharing their faith publicly. I mean, we've seen a major change there where the athletes are more willing to do so. As you counsel athletes there and you think about professional, how do you think that has environmentally changed the last few years that you've been there?
Yeah, I think I don't know what the shift has been, but I love it. I think the public declaration of their faith, whether it's through, NFL guys getting baptized, or if it's college football players getting baptized, or even, what happens on the field. One of the things that I love is that we'll pray in the locker room, but during our warm-ups, like 32 minutes left in the clock, we pray in the end zone. All of us pray. It's the entire team and coaches, and it's an incredible sight. And I encourage the guys. I said, hey, listen, let me just tell you this. Like, I'll tell them all the time. Like, you don't have to stand up for Jesus, stand with him. Just stand with him. Don't have to stand up for him. Just stand with him. I think a lot of times, even us as leaders, we get in the way, right? We stand up for Jesus, and so we end up standing in front of him. And all people can see is Robbie and not the Savior. And so that's what I remind. Stand with them. You don't have to stand up for them. And then on the other side of it is like the way we present it, the way we present the gospel, the way we present what we're doing. Are we doing it in a manner that can be received by the majority? As you have teenagers, so do I. It's like, I'll always tell them to watch your tone, right? What you're saying is not wrong, but the way you're saying it is. And I think as communicators and pastors and preachers, right, you can be the megaphone guy, and maybe what you're saying is right, but the way you're saying it is wrong. And I don't even want to listen to you, and I know what you're saying. And so I would always tell our guys, our coaches, our players, let's watch our tone, right? I know you want to do this. Let's make sure it's the right time. I want to do what I'm supposed to do. I'm like, you're going to do it. You're going to do it. And sometimes you'll use words. I said, let your actions speak so loud, right, that people can't hear what you're saying. Yeah. So just live that out, and then you'll get to say something. And I think that's been great. Let's go to CJ, right? Right. He has success. He's done it. Right. Okay. Go for it, bro. Speak it, you know? If there was the antithesis of it, if it was a 2-15 season with the Texans, if it was and it was a bunch of bad attitude and a bunch of and then like, I'm thankful for my relationship with Jesus Christ, that's where we're like, there's this tone part. But when we would just lean into it, take our time, allow ourselves to develop and mature, and make sure that our actions are proper, and then our words will fall on good ground.
Love it. One final question.
Yeah.
Why does the work you do matter?
The work anyone does that matters is one that goes beyond them, right? So I would define people like, hey, I'm gonna have some self-care, right? And I get it. I get you take self-care. I get it. But self-care becomes selfish when it starts to affect me.
I want you to say that. Say that again, because that was really good.
Self-care becomes like, I'm having a self-care day, so I'm gonna leave work for 3 hours. Well, now I have to do your work because you're taking care of yourself. Self-care becomes selfishness when it begins to affect me, the other person, right? And so what you do matters. When you know what you do matters is when it affects other people, right? Whether it's selfishness or whether it's actually making a difference, right? That's what matters. Like that's what, as long as it makes a difference, as long as I see change, whether it's changing the way they go about their life, whether it's the development of their faith, whether it's, families in the tailgate giving me a hug. We'll have a tailgate prior to a game, and it's just the families and then all their friends. So there's a couple thousand people there. I'll stand on the back of a pickup truck and I'll speak to 2,000 people screaming at the top of my lungs and talking about something. And then I had a parent send me a picture I handed out these little wristbands similar to the one you have on, that same kind of style. And one of the players' dad sent me a picture. He said, my best friend in the whole world, who had struggled with his faith, who had left his relationship with God because of what you said on Saturday, in that 5 minutes, got him back on the right track. And he and I are going to church this morning. That's it.
Man, Robbie, thank you so much. Where can they learn more about you, man?
You can on all socials at Robbie Emery, and then RobbieEmery.com or Wolverine.everything.edu.
Man.
Hail to the
Oh,
victors,
no. Well, hey, thank you so much. Thank you for your time.
Yeah, my
Thank you
pleasure.
for all of those watching on YouTube, listening. I'm glad you're here. Remember to subscribe. Hit the little bell so that way you get notified each new episode that pops out. And Robbie, thank you so much for being here. Until next time, choose to lead with impact.